How to control the timeline of a car deal. Most people think controlling a car deal means controlling the price. And when you hear the word control, some people immediately think of being rude, demanding, or difficult. And that's very far from the truth. You can be polite, you can be friendly, you can treat your salesman with complete respect and still be the person who's controlling the transaction from beginning to end, just by being very focused on what you want. Because when Elizabeth and I and the coaches who work with us talk about controlling the timeline of a car deal, we're really talking about something bigger than time. We're talking about controlling the process. Who decides what happens next? Who decides when you're going to talk numbers? Who decides when your trade enters the conversation? Who decides when financing gets discussed? Who decides when you're ready to move into the finance office? And ultimately, who decides when you're ready to sign? If you're doing this correctly, you do. And one of the things you'll hear me say when I'm negotiating a vehicle over the phone is something like, here's what I want you to do. I'll give the salesperson a specific task. Get me the out-the-door price. Verify a particular option. That's when I always add. When you've done that, I'll tell you what's next. And I know what I need to see before I'm willing to advance to the next step. And that is controlling the timeline. But here's what I really want to show you today. You can do the exact same thing face-to-face inside the dealership, because without a doubt, no matter how many times I tell some of you, you still want to go to the dealership to see what kind of deal you can get. And when you learn how to do it properly face-to-face, you completely change the dynamic of the transaction. Somebody is going to lead this deal. Liz?
That's right. Understand this before you ever walk through the dealership doors. Somebody is going to lead this transaction. If it isn't you, it's going to be them. And that's not necessarily because they're dishonest. It's because dealerships have a process. They have a system. The salesperson knows the system. The sales manager knows the system. The finance manager definitely knows the system. They do this every single day. You don't. You do this once every so many years.
So imagine an unprepared buyer walking into a lot. A salesperson approaches. What brings you in today? I'm looking for an SUV, you say. What kind? I'm not really sure. What payment are you trying to stay under? Maybe $600. How much are you putting down? I don't know. Are you trading something? Yeah, that car over there. Great. Let me get the keys and we'll take a look at it. And within 5 minutes, your head is spinning. Who's running this transaction? The salesperson. Not because they wrestled control away from you, the buyer, but by being unprepared, you handed it to them. And that's one of the most important lessons in this entire show. A salesperson is not going to follow an unprepared buyer. Why would they? If you don't know where you're going, they're going to take you where they want you to go.
Control starts before you actually contact the dealership. This is why doing your homework isn't just about saving money. Preparation gives you the authority. Before I contact a dealership, I want to know what I'm shopping for. Preferably, I'm not calling saying, I'm looking for a Toyota Tacoma, what do you have? Because I've already looked at their inventory. I have a specific stock number. I know the trim level. I've looked at the equipment. I've looked at competing inventory. I've researched the market itself. I have a reasonable idea what that vehicle should sell for. I know what the incentives are that apply. I have financing options. And if I have a trade, I've already researched that too.
Now compare these two buyers. Buyer number one, I'm interested in a Tacoma. What's your best price? Buyer number two, I'm calling about stock number 4276, the TRD off-road with the 6-foot bed. Before we go into discussion about any numbers, I need you to put your hands on it to verify that it's physically on the lot and available for sale. Which customer sounds like they know what they're doing? That's important because the tone of the entire transaction can be established in the first 60 seconds.
Here's another key we use here at the Homework Guy. Give that salesperson one job to do at a time. This is something I think buyers overlook. You don't have to dump the entire transaction onto the table at once. In fact, I don't want to. I want to move through the deal deliberately. First, verify the vehicle is there. Done. Great. Now send me the out-the-door price, everything included. Done. Now I evaluate that. Then I counter offer. Maybe I need clarification. Maybe there's an add-on. Then I address that, but not by attacking the loan item, but by subtracting whatever I don't want to pay for from the bottom line price. The salesperson doesn't need to know every move I'm going to make. They need to know what I need right now. And when that's completed, I tell them what's next. That prevents this transaction from getting out of my hands.
Now let's walk into the dealership. Suppose you're doing this in person, because I know a lot of you do. You arrive and the salesperson says, "Come on inside and we'll get you checked in." You don't necessarily need to do that yet. So you say, "Before we go in, I'd like to look over the vehicle I'm after." That's your first step. Maybe they say, "Absolutely. Do you have a trade?" You can say, "We'll get to that. Right now, I'd like to look at this vehicle." Notice what you're doing. You're not refusing to discuss your trade. You're deciding when the trade gets discussed. That's a very important distinction.
You can also control the vehicle inspection. Before you negotiate anything, verify what you're actually buying. Walk around it. Look at the body. Look at the tires and wheels. Look inside. Is it clean? Verify the equipment. Check the mileage. If it's used, look closely at the condition. Make sure the vehicle you've researched is a vehicle that's sitting in front of you. Don't let excitement move you forward prematurely. If the salesperson says, "Why don't we go inside and I'll work some numbers up?" you simply say, "We'll get to the numbers. I would like to drive this first." Again, you just control the next step.
Now control the test drive. And don't turn the test drive into a negotiating session. You're driving, you're listening for noises, you're checking visibility, you're checking seat comfort, you're checking acceleration and braking. You're deciding whether you actually want to own this thing. If the salesperson came with you and starts asking, "If we can get the numbers right, are you ready to take this home today?" You don't need to make that commitment right now. You can say, "If the vehicle checks out, we'll move to the next step and look at the numbers." That's all they need, one step at a time.
Now, don't let them jump from the test drive right to the monthly payment, because now you're back at the dealership. The salesman is chomping at the bit to get you to his desk. You sit down, and this is where things can start moving quickly. He starts asking things like, "What payment are you looking for? How much are you putting down? How much do you owe on your trade? Are you financing with us?" Stop. Those questions may eventually need answers, but they don't all need answers right now. If you're negotiating the selling price, then negotiate the selling price. You can say, "Right now, I want to work on the price of the vehicle. We'll deal with financing and payments after we've agreed on the numbers." Or you can say, "We'll talk about my trade separately. First, I want to know what you're selling this vehicle for." Now you have defined the negotiation.
Why monthly payment can steal control of the deal? If you allow the conversation to immediately become, "What payment do you want?" you've allowed the dealership to change the terms of negotiation. Instead of negotiating what the vehicle costs, you're negotiating what it costs per month. Those are not the same thing. Loan term can move, down payment can move, interest rate can move, trade equity can move, products can be added, and somehow that doggone monthly payment can still land right where you said you wanted it. That's exactly why controlling the sequence matters. I want to know what I'm paying for the vehicle. I want to know the fees. I want to know the out-the-door number. Only then can we move forward.
Remember, don't let the trade get mixed in too early. The same principle applies here with your trade-in. Let's say the salesperson asks for your keys. We'll have our used car manager take a look while we're working the numbers. You might decide that's fine, but don't let their appraisal become part of the new car negotiation before you're ready, because now numbers can start moving in multiple directions. Maybe they give you another $1,000 for the trade, but they take that $1,000 away from the discount from the car. The buyer feels like they won $1,000. They may have won nothing. That's why I like separating these pieces entirely. What are you selling me your vehicle for? Then say, what are you giving me for mine? And you should be prepared with some outside trade appraisals. At a minimum, have an appraisal from CarMax or Carvana. They give you the numbers that they will write a check for even if you don't buy a thing from them. What you are paying for their vehicle and what they're paying you for yours are two separate questions, two separate numbers.
And never negotiate against yourself. Now, let's say you make an offer. The salesperson says, "I don't think my manager will do that." Don't immediately say, "Okay, how about another $500? You just negotiated against yourself. Your answer can be, "Take it to the manager." And then stop talking. A little bit of silence isn't a bad thing. Let them respond. If the manager says no, fine. What's their counteroffer? Maybe they come back $2,000 higher. Now you evaluate it. You don't have to immediately respond. Read it. Look at the numbers. Make sure nothing moves somewhere else. Take your time. The silence doesn't belong to the dealership. You get to use it too.
Don't follow the salesperson into every conversation. Here's another way buyers lose control. The salesperson says, "My manager wants to know what it'll take to earn your business today." And the buyer starts explaining everything. "Well, if you could get another $40 off the payment." No, you don't need to give them another road to travel down. If you've already made an offer, you say, you have my offer. If your manager can do it, we can keep moving. That's it. You're making the dealership respond to your proposal instead of constantly responding to theirs.
Your ability to walk away is part of timeline control. Sometimes controlling the timeline means stopping the timeline. That's incredibly powerful. If things aren't progressing, just stop. If the numbers are wrong, stop. If an add-on suddenly appears, stop. If you're getting tired out, stop. If you need to research something or anything, just stop. You say, I need to think about this. I'll get back to you tomorrow. The dealership may not like that. Well, that's okay. You aren't there to satisfy their preferred schedule. You're there to make a financially responsible decision.
Don't give them your deadline either. This is where your personal timeline becomes important. Maybe your vehicle was totaled. Maybe your rental ends tomorrow, or your lease is due. Maybe you're leaving on a vacation. Maybe you absolutely need transportation Monday morning for a new job. Those things matter to you. They don't necessarily need to matter to the dealership, because the minute you say, I have to buy something today, you've revealed that your ability to stop a transaction is limited. You don't need to lie. Just don't volunteer information that weakens your position here.
Pre-approved financing helps you control the next step, and that's the reason why we always tell you to get a pre-approval. Financing is another reason preparation matters. Before I negotiate, I want a benchmark. Maybe it's my bank, maybe it's my credit union. I want to know approximately what financing is available to me. Then when the dealership says, let's run your credit and see what we can get you, I can say, we'll get to financing. I already have financing available. Once we've finalized the deal, you're welcome to see if you can beat what I already have. Do you see what happened? I didn't say they couldn't finance me. I told them when we're going to discuss financing. That's timeline control.
At this point, don't let the finance office change the deal itself. Now you've negotiated everything. You've agreed on the numbers. You're headed to the finance office to sign out. A lot of buyers mentally believe we're finished. Oh, you're not finished. In fact, this is where you need to become extremely deliberate, because now you may be offered service contracts, gap protection, wheel and tire protection, maintenance plans, paint protection, key replacement, and other products. Again, one thing at a time. What is the total price of that product? What does it cover? Is it optional? Can I buy it later? Can I cancel it? Don't allow, it's only another $27 a month. To accelerate your decision, $27 a month for how many months? What's your actual cost? See, you control the pace.
Then finally, control the paperwork. And this may be the most important timeline control of the entire transaction. When the paperwork comes out, slow down. You've spent hours negotiating. Don't rush through these documents that actually memorialize what you've agreed to. Check the selling price, check the fees, your trade, the payoff, check the amount financed and the APR, check the loan term, check the products. Make sure those numbers to the agreement you made before entering finance are dead on. If someone is pointing, sign here, initial here, sign here, you can say, give me a minute. I want to read this, and then read it. You don't need permission. It's your contract, my friend.
That's right. And right now, don't fall for the sunk cost trap. This is where the timeline control becomes especially difficult. You've already spent, say, 4 to 6 hours at the dealership. You've negotiated. They've appraised your trade. You've moved your stuff out of your old car. Maybe you've called your insurance company. Everybody thinks the deal is finished. And then you discover something isn't right. A fee, an interest rate change, a product, a number that changed. And your brain says, we've already come this far. That's exactly when you need to remember the time you've already spent is gone regardless of what you do next. Don't turn those 4 wasted hours into 5 years of payments on a bad deal. You can still stop the transaction even at the very end.
Right on. Here's what a controlled car deal looks like. Let's put the whole thing together. You do your research before contacting the dealership. You know the exact vehicle. You know the market. You know your financing, your trade. You contact the dealer and say, verify the vehicle, like we said in the beginning. They verify it. Then send me the out-the-door information. They send it. Now let's address the trade. You address it. Now let's talk financing. And then you compare financing with the pre-approval you already have. Now show me the final paperwork. You review it at every stage.
You know where you are. You know what you're trying to accomplish, and you know what happens next. Compare that to the typical unprepared buyer. They arrive, they wander around the lot, they find something they think they like, they fall in love with it, they drive it, they reveal their desired payment, they hand over their trade keys, fill out a credit application, they negotiate the payment, they wait some more, They get tired, then they enter the finance office. Then they buy products based on monthly costs, and several hours later, they're driving home wondering, what exactly did I just agree to? That's the difference. One buyer went through the dealership's process. The other buyer went through their own process with them.
And that's why this preparation is everything. I want to come back to where we started. A salesperson isn't going to follow an unprepared buyer. If you're confused, they're going to lead. If you don't know what comes next, they're going to decide. If you don't understand the numbers, they're going to explain them according to their process. And by the way, if you're listening to all of this and thinking, Kevin, I understand what you're saying, but I don't negotiate car deals every day. I'm not sure I can actually take control of the process like that. That's exactly why we have our hassle-free car buying service. It was requested by people just like you. Our coaches help you do the homework, understand the numbers, and most importantly, control the process, just like we've been explaining. We're not just handing you a number and wishing you good luck. We help you identify the right vehicle, evaluate the right deals, do the direct negotiation with the dealer, and work through the process with you so you know what happens next and when. And when it's time to visit the dealership, you're not walking into that situation wondering what to say or what to do next. You have a written plan in your hand. Because remember what we said earlier, a salesperson isn't going to follow an unprepared buyer. So don't be the unprepared buyer. If you'd like our team to be in your corner on your next vehicle purchase, check out our hassle-free car buying service by clicking on the big red button at thehomeworkguy.com. We'll help you do the homework, we'll help you control the process, and we'll make the dealership compete for your business. I'm Kevin Hunter, the Homework Guy, America's consumer watchdog for car buyers, signing off on behalf of the amazing Elizabeth and the world's best professional car buying team. You guys rock. God bless you all.